Union leaders have a stern warning for government as salary negotiations stall once again, with less than 48 hours to the presentation of the 2023 budget.
How do you wait until 24 hours or 48 hours, then you come and negotiate a very important article in the Constitution? You want us to take 40 hours to discuss it? It's a strategy to force something down our throat. But that is not going to happen. If government really want to read the budget as scheduled, then they must be prepared to give in.
The workers are determined to hold up the 2023 budget presentation as long as possible to get what they want, unless, and they are warning, they will unleash their fury on government.
So if I'm negotiating with you and we're unable to be fair, you're unable to be truthful to yourself, to tell us what is in the kitty, who is taking what and who is taking what, and tell us the economy is bad, there's no money, government cannot pay, government cannot afford. Then we can also say that you will stay at home and come to work once in a week or twice in a week.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Vodafone. It is proving to be one of the most contentious salary negotiations in recent history, which is now threatening to delay the presentation of the 2023 budget. Workers are demanding a 60% increase in salary, but Joy News is learning government is offering 8%. There appears to be a deadlock which stalled negotiations tonight with less than 48 hours to the budget presentation. The workers now tell Joy News they are convinced government has deliberately left the negotiations to the very end to force the 8% offer down their throats. The TUC is warning they will never back down, even if it means delaying the budget presentation. Now, listen there to Joshua Ansah, who is the Deputy Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress.
When we produce the excess profit that we are only demanding something small out of it, whose fault is it? The law says that minimum wages and base pay should be negotiated by the end of April. In the year before, as in 2023, minimum wage and base pay should have been concluded in April 2022. So whose fault is it that we have not yet finished? We started doing something in August. Why has they waited until today that you know that 24 hours or 48 hours we are going to read the budget and want to force something down our throat? I don't think it's fair. So whether the budget will be read or not, that one, we don't look there because we want something good for our members. We have been very supportive. We have been we have sacrificed a lot. How do you wait until 24 hours or 48 hours, then we come and negotiate a very important article in the Constitution, a very important article in the Labor Act, minimum wage and base pay, and you want us to take 40 hours to discuss it? I mean, somebody say that it's a strategy to force something down our throat, but that is not going to happen. If government really want to read the budget as scheduled, then they must be prepared to give in for workers' demand so that they can read the budget. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult. I let my senior brother Austin saying that definitely it's going to be something less than that. Let's pray, because from the discussions we have had from the 140 percentage point up to the 60%, I'm afraid if we are going to go down again. But let's pray, like Mr. Sangama said, we are all in this country, if something should be done. But otherwise, then they are in tough negotiations.
Well, the TUC position is backed by the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT. Their president has been in negotiations and has been talking to us about what this will mean for the budget, and they simply do not care. It says it's up to government to get a deal done now before the budget.
Ability to pay, but you can see that after we have been given a peanut, people go out there and we see them not living lives of ability to pay people. Last year and last 2 years.
If he wants to read the budget on Thursday, then he will have to close negotiations tomorrow.
And you're saying that you're not going to come down and not going to budge on the 60%?
What figure is in the document he's holding in a serious...
Okay, but when you went to the meeting last week, right, what was government's offer?
Well, I will not want to divulge details of negotiations because it flies at the face of good labor practice. But government offer was not accepted by the workers.
So that is why it ended inconclusive?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so you're expecting that tomorrow when they come, they'll offer a different
We expect
They would have upped.
they'll offer a different and a significant figure from what they offered the last.
Other than that, what will happen?
Other than that, there'll be a deadlock.
But that can happen because of the budget.
Yes, if there is a deadlock, there are actions workers ought to take.
Which is?
When we get to the bridge, we'll cross it. But what I'm saying now is that if the minister wants to read his budget on Thursday, then there ought to be a figure he's holding up to his chest. What figure is that? Because the moment there is a change in 1% of the figure the minister is holding to his chest, it will have a cascading effect on all other figures.
And you're saying whatever figure he's holding to his chest must better be 60% or more.
Your words.
If it's less.
Well, let's get to the negotiation.
Well, the workers are united and they are clear in asserting that they will not accept an argument, any argument from government, bordering on government's ability to pay. They are convinced government has the ability to pay, and even if it can find the money, somehow must ensure that the national kitty is shared fairly. Listen to the TUC on this matter.
Ability to pay, but you can see that after we have been given a peanut, people go out there and we see them not living lives of ability to pay people. Last year and last 2 years, the same stories were told. Things are hard, the economic situation is bad, COVID and this and that and so on and so forth. Workers were forced down 7% and 4% down our throats.
I remember that workers started protesting, demanding the sacking of yourselves and the leaders.
Of all the leaders. Yes. Yes. So what happened after that? What happened to the other privileged people in the society? So we think that that is not the way to go. So why is it that when we produce the excess profit that we are only demanding something small out of it, employers and government tells us that there's no money, the economy is bad, and this and that. I think we have heard it is enough for us. We are no longer going to listen to that. Let us all feel the heat. Let us all share what is there. When you ask the finance minister, the envelope that we are saying that after paying 35 billion out of the envelope, the money is gone. Can you apportion it for us to see that this part of the envelope goes to people A, this part of the envelope goes to people B, and no one can tell us this.
We're also tonight getting a first sense of what the workers plan to do if they do not get their 60% increase in salary. It includes a threat now to reduce working days. They are proposing now, they will now put in only 2 days in a week. In a 5-day week, they'll come to work only 2 days. The government can't give them their 60%. Listen to the TUC.
When we produce the excess profit that we are only demanding something small out of it, employers and government tells us that there's no money, the economy is bad, and this and that. I think we have heard it is enough for us. We are no longer going to listen to that. Let us all feel the heat. Let us all share what is there. When you ask the finance minister, the envelope that we are saying that after paying 35 billion out of the envelope, the money is gone. Can you apportion it for us to see that this part of the envelope goes to people A, this part of the envelope goes to people B? No one can tell us this. So if I'm negotiating with you and you're unable to be fair, you're unable to be truthful to yourself, to tell us what is in the kitty, who is taking what and who is taking what, and you tell us the economy is bad, there's no money, government cannot pay, government cannot afford, then I'm inclined to go with Brother Kabonu by saying that, okay, then we can also say that you stay at home and come to work once in a week or twice in a week, because somebody taking 500 Ghana cedis and paying transport of more than 1,200 per month. How do you expect that person to come to work every day? How do you expect that person even to get something to eat after paying for the transportation? A family of two, a wife and husband and maybe 2 kids, how would they live in this very country? So all these are things that are there in the face of Ghanaian workers. And enough, and it is time that we try to bring practicality to bear. The no money syndrome, government cannot afford, affordability to pay, and all this is must be looked up once again. We don't think this is the time for government to tell us the money is not there and there's no way to. Then if the money is not there, let us also find a way of regulating our work, whether to come to work once in a week, twice in a week, and so on and so forth, to commensurate the money that we are being paid. Workers have sacrificed a lot, and we are tired of that. This time around, it's not going to be like that.
Meeting with the workers just ended. My colleague Papania Shale is in the studio with me. You just returned from this meeting today. What happened?
So, Evans, it first started off on the bad footing. The auditorium that they usually use had now been rented out. They had to wait for more than an hour to settle on another auditorium. And finally, when they get it, it's much smaller. It cannot contain the entire number. So, proper negotiations, I wouldn't say. Nobody confirms that it was proper negotiations, but it seems that government was still adamant on moving that particular number that they had already had been leaked to join use. That 8%, government was not willing to move beyond that. So it settled on that for, say, 2 hours. And then when they came out, the resolution was, let's adjourn the meeting. Let's come back tomorrow, Wednesday, November 23, and continue our conversations. But government, we understand that did not change its position.
And that moves this conversation even closer to the budget. And that's the point that the workers have been saying to me on PM Express last night, that they believe this is a deliberate strategy by government. Move the negotiations as close to the budget, which we expect it to be on Thursday, as possible, and use that as a strategy to force an agreement on the workers. So they said they are seeing through this and they will not accept it. But that then will leave a few hours now to the budget if the conversation is going to happen tomorrow. But we're also getting a sense that the tough, uncompromising stance of these workers appear to have been influenced largely by what happened last year when they agreed a 7% increase in salary, and a lot of their members started agitating, calling for them to be removed.
Yes, so Evans, the TIL chairman, when I spoke to him, Ambrosia Okwajoja, goes back to last year's negotiations, how we ended, and even how they finally got the approval, that even government was unwilling to move beyond what they had already spoken to, and the negotiations went on, tarried for a very long time, and then finally when they got it, it was very close to the budgets being read, and they got just 7% last year when they asked for 25%. This year they are starting at 60%, and they are not going to change their mind, at least from all those I've spoken to. They say even if they get, government should even increase that to 100%, and also take that, but 60%, they're not going to go below that.
Well, members were very unhappy about that percent that we had last year, because earlier on government explained certain things to us. Based on that, Labour accepted government's demand from Labour. But immediately after we accepted, things in the country started changing, and they changed very rapidly. That actually eroded that particular 7% in no time. I think within a month or two, it had already eroded the 7%. So all along, we have been ravaging in deficit from that time up to the time we asked for COLA. Yeah.
So, but how helpful was COLA to your members?
COLA came, but the COLA even, I may say, it got buried under the sand. Because, you are in Ghana, immediately after the COLA, the inflation started rising, as if there was some petrol poured in fire for the inflation to start running. So it just erased every COLA that we negotiated for the time.
And Papa, also today, the workers appear united in demanding 60% because of what they perceive the Article 71 office holders are getting. And I get a sense that they're going to go to the negotiating table with the government. And the irony is, the government negotiators themselves are on Article 71 office holders and make the point that you come to this table, you get fuel, you get other, freebies plus your salary, and you want me to take less. I think that it appears that's what they're pushing for.
Yes. So you hear clearly Tewu say that in their wish, scrap Article 71 office holders and let them come and join our queue so that they see exactly how we are feeling the pinch. And clearly even goes ahead to tell you that even after all the different negotiations they've gone through this year for different allowances, that allowances haven't helped much, hasn't cushioned them much in the current predicament that they find themselves in. That, and it reveals to me that as low as 500 Ghana cedis, that's how much some people are taking on their salary structure. And that hasn't held much. And 60% will only bring them to 800 Ghana cedis. You can't compare that to what Article 71 office holders are taking. Thousands of Ghana cedis as allowances alone. So certainly their disdain for what Article 71 holders take home as salary or monies that they get to benefit from government alone is something that is forcing them to stand their ground probably if government decides to scrap Article 71 holders, that is only when they will decide to renege and be attentive or listening to government, ready to hear a different figure than 60% from government.
We have our juniors who earn as low as 600 cedis. And 60% we are talking, if you add it to the 600 cedis, it only gives you up to 800 cedis. Easy. And if you take the present circumstances in which we find ourselves, every price in Ghana has multiplied by 3 or 4. If I just look at everything, there is multiplication of 3 times or 4 times. Therefore, this demand is very realistic, especially if you go down, then it's going to affect the down people who collect very low salary. And I can tell you, I know of senior officers. I work in Ghana Education Service. Senior officers grade start from principal grade. And net take-home payment of senior officer is just about 2,000 cedis. But if you convert it to dollars, it's 100 and what? Is it $30? Yeah. And that is woefully inadequate. I calculated something from a senior officer who pay a rent of 500 cedis. Transportation through and fro for the month is 600 cedis. So it is 1,001. Look at the rest of them. He has children, he has wife, or a family of, let's say, 3, just 3. How can they live on the rest 1,100 in these present circumstances?
I want to bring in some of the union leaders who were in this meeting today. President of NATIS, Dr. Isaac Owusu, joins us on the telephone line right now. President of TEWU is Ambrose Yao. Kwejoja is also on the telephone line right now. Thank you very much for your time here on Top Story. Ms. Isaac Owusu, let me start with you. We understand that government was offering 8% increase. Is that accurate?
Well, Ivan, thank you very much, and let me say a very good evening to your terrorist listeners and viewers as well. Yes, the government finally moved to 12%.
When you had come in with 60%.
Exactly.
I mean, Ambrose, tell me, is the 12% acceptable for yourself and your members?
Never.
Why is it not? Last year you accepted 7%, so this 12% is a significant increase.
Yeah, you can agree with me that this year conditions are far more worse than that of last year when we negotiated for salaries.
So that's why the 12% isn't enough for you. But did the government explain why they are proposing 12%?
Yeah, as the Deputy Secretary General said, they are talking about what is left in the kitty. But that is not acceptable because we believe that what is left in the kitty is not being shared equitably among us. The so-called Article 71 office holders, in fact, one of the allowances is more than somebody's basic salary, which is not fair at all. So if what is in the kitty will be shared equally, fine. That is why I made a proposal that if government can also move its workers to single spine, then we know that we are all on equal footing and move ahead from there.
Ms. Isaac Owusu, so the government's position and is clear, is it not, that as for 60%, it's unrealistic. Also because of the current economic circumstance. And we are having this conversation now. This has been moved to tomorrow, from what I understand, 24 hours or less to the budget. It's just not realistic to expect government to give you a 60% increase.
Well, Evans, I don't think this is something too much for the government to do for the public sector workers who are rendering service in the interest of the nation. Look, in 2020, when we were negotiating for 2021-2022 base pay, it was 4% and 7% respectively. And you, Evans, you in particular, you saw the pressure that came on the leadership of the organized labor. As such, the pressure. Now look at the current economic situation that workers find themselves in. Presently, what is inflation now? 40.4 after October. We don't know what will happen in the month of inflation for November. And so even the 60% that the organized labor is requesting, to the members that we are representing, left to them alone, we will have even ask for more instead of the 60.
But let me ask you, today, from everything I heard yesterday, today was supposed to be the day when at least you got closer to an agreement. What really happened? Why has it been postponed to tomorrow?
Well, we attended the meeting. Organized labor, our leadership were there to speak on behalf of all of us. The Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations, the minister himself and his deputy were there. The deputy finance minister, Honorable Abuna, was also there, together with some technical team members. But we realized that, you see, before the government side, they can help all of us, they need to come with all that they have. You see, if you attend a meeting and you don't have the mandate to take a final decision, it becomes very difficult for you. Because look, in negotiation, the two parties will have to get to the agreement zone. Even I am quoting 60%. You, on the other side, certainly, I need to understand you. You also need to understand me. If I said 60 and you are 8, you have come to 10, now 12, and now I'm at 60. Just look at the gap. But in bargaining, where two parties reach the agreement zone, then each party consider the other's request. So if somebody cannot start with 60 and you said I'll give 12. When even the inflation alone for October is 40.4.
Really fascinating stuff. Mr. Aldo, please stay with me for a second. I want to bring in Professor Peter Quartey, heads ESA. Prof, thanks for your time here on Top Story.
Thank you, and good evening to you and to your discerning listeners.
Prof, you've had it. Government started with 8%. They've moved to 10. Now they are at 12. Workers say 60%. Can the budget afford a 60% increase in salary for workers?
Well, even if I could take you quickly to our budget for 2022, you will find that compensation of employees, the provisional outcome was 23.3 billion. If we increase this by 60%, that will be about 37.4 billion cedis, from 23 to 37 billion cedis. Our deficit is 7.7% of GDP. I share the views of or the pains of all the labor front in the sense that inflation has increased to about 40.4%. Workers' real incomes have declined considerably. But given where we find ourselves, I think there should be a middle ground. There is no way government can raise or increase revenue by 40 to 60% to meet the demands of labor. It is impossible. So, who else will prevail? We are not in normal times, so that both parties can come to some consensus. It also behoves on government to also try and trim down this expenditure, Article 31 holders, as well as government appointees. There is been a lot of call for government to reduce the size of government. Government should show the goodwill, should show the way, so that ordinary labor will try to accommodate some of the pain that this high rate of inflation, this economic crisis is bringing on their pockets, on their livelihood. But having said that, I want to appeal to the labor front that it's impossible to increase revenue by 40 to 50% in a year for government to be able to meet their demands. So let all parties go to the negotiating room and strike a compromise. That, for me, is the way to go.
And Prof, workers are 60. Government is tonight is at 12%. Can they do more? Looking at the analysis you've done and where the numbers stand.
I'll just take it from increasing government revenue. The maximum we could do in a year is 15 to 20% increase in revenue. So any request above that is unsustainable. Of course, we have to look at the medium to long-term plan where gradually we enhance revenue mobilization so that we can pay realistic wages to a hard-working Ghanaian. But over a year, within 12 months, if you want to increase your spending on compensation by 40 to 50%, the government machinery will ground to a halt. Anything between 15 to 20 maybe can be accommodated, but beyond that, I'm afraid it will be difficult.
Professor Peter Quartey, he heads the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research at the University of Ghana. Thank you very much for your time. President of NAT, Dr. Isaac Owusu, your reaction to that? Those are the hard numbers.
Well, Ivan, and is coming from. Prof will equally agree with us that those of us who find ourselves under the public sector sector, and we are being paid on the single spine, we are poorly paid. It isn't that even we are receiving something huge and we are demanding something abnormally. Even all sectors believe that the public sector workers are poorly paid in this country. If you look at the salary that the teacher receives, and you are giving the teacher 7% this particular year, and inflation has shot up to 40.4%, the teacher will have to be moving from his or her house to the workplace, taking that thought from a taxi. Look at the fares. So we believe that nothing is impossible under this earth. Because, you see, we were all in this country. When the government wanted to assist certain banks, that they felt that people's money will go wayward. At least the government find ways and means to get money to let the bank survive. Is that not the case? So there is nothing impossible under this earth. Because the public sector workers are very important stakeholders. Because without the public sector workers, there will be no government. The workers are working for the government to survive. So if the worker who is working for the government to survive is unable to work effectively, then what is government?
So is it your hope that this will be concluded tomorrow? Because the budget is expected to be on Thursday.
As a believer of the gospel, I hope so. That tomorrow the government will come in full force and make sure that he assists the public sector workers for us to see to it that at least we have a 60% salary increment come to the
And very quickly, Dr. Owusu, government has moved twice now. You haven't moved at all since you went in with 60. Are you ready to move?
But I told you that, when we have not, you are 60 and your other party is 12. It means the two of you have not even reached the agreement zone for you to consider each party's request.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's the president of NAT, the Ghana National Association of Teachers, the biggest union when it comes to teachers. Dr. Isaac Owusu was at the meeting. I want to hear from you. I know many of you listening right now, you work in the public sector. Government is offering 12% increase in your salary. Remember where they started. They started at 8%. Then they moved to 10%. Tonight, they've moved now to 12%. Your leaders are in that meeting asking for 60% for you. And you've heard the ISA analysis that this economy can only survive with a maximum of 20%. Between 15 and 20% increase is what the economy can take. So something has to give. What should give? Let me hear from you. 055-11-11997.